You are still a writer, even if you've never finished anything. Hey friendship, it's Ashlyn. I talk about books. So, you fancy yourself a writer, huh? Oh, but you've never finished anything? Worry not, friends, I'm here to help. I was like you once, young, incapable of finishing anything. Hell, I feel like that now, trying to figure out what the hell I'm doing with my next novel. But I have finished a novel, and you can too. And here are 5 practical tips to getting you there. Step 1, form a writing habit. I could and probably will make an entire video about the importance of forming a writing habit. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Inspiration is wonderful kindling, but terrible fuel. You can't get through an entire novel if you're sitting around waiting for inspiration to strike before you ever put pen to paper. You need to form a habit. Do it even when you don't want to. Make it part of your routine. Start by blocking off a certain amount of time, preferably an amount of time that you can commit to every day, and sit down and actually write during it. Don't allow yourself to skip out on it. This is your writing time. This is your time to get words down. Sit down for that amount of time and write. Eventually it'll become a habit, and that's how you crank out a novel. Step 2, try outlining. I know, pantsers, and more accurately, pantsers, don't want to hear this one. X super famous writer doesn't outline? Why should I? Well, friend, because you've never finished a novel. I'm not saying outlining is for everyone. For some of us it really does kill our creative process. But I did think I was a pantser for a really long time, and that's probably why it took me so long to finish my first novel. It wasn't until I sat down to outline that I finally managed to get one done. Look, writing a novel is hard. Like, really, really hard. 50,000 words or more is a fucking lot, and if you need a roadmap to help you figure out how to get there, there's no shame in that. I'll link you below to the video I made about outlining methods. Give a couple of them a try and see if it unlocks your creative process. Step 3, give yourself permission to suck. You've probably heard this one before, but it bears repeating. Your first draft is going to suck. It's going to be awful. There are going to be words in there that you never want anyone to see. It's fine. That's true of every single writer. No one has to see the garbage you're putting on the page right now. Just get it down and tell yourself you'll fix it later. I like to think of my writing process as pregnancy. Hear me out. At the end of this shit process, I'm gonna have something amazing. I'm gonna birth this beautiful, wonderful thing from my mind. Parts of the process of getting there are great. Other parts suck. Drafting is the early stage of pregnancy. The shitty part where you're nauseous all the time, you can't keep food down, and you cry because your cat sat with your roommate instead of you. Going further with this metaphor, have you ever seen a fetus in the early stages of development? Newborn babies are adorable, but they don't look anything like that in the first trimester. They're weird and gross looking. Your first draft is just the weird, gross, early fetal stage of your book baby. I promise it'll be wonderful and miraculous when it's done, but it's gotta go through this awkward stage to get there. So just tell yourself whatever you're gonna write is gonna be terrible and get those words down. Get them out so you can move on. Step 4, never ever ever go back and edit. Controversial because a lot of more experienced authors who hate revising can do this no problem, but I highly advise against newer writers editing as they go, especially if you're working on your first book. It's too easy to fall into the trap of trying to get your first chapter to be perfect before you allow yourself to move on. It becomes a procrastination technique. And aside from that, if the book isn't done yet, it's not a good idea to waste time revising. You have no idea if the scene you're trying to perfect is even going to make it into the next draft. You may be wasting your time all around. Seriously, if you think of something that needs to be changed as you're drafting, just write it down and keep going. Make those changes after the draft is finished. Trust me on this. Number 5, eyes on your own paper. Humble brag. I met best-selling author Adam Silvera over the weekend. I asked him what his best piece of writing advice was for fledgling authors, and this is what he told me. Never compare yourself to someone else. You know what the beautiful thing about writing is? You can literally do it at any age. Unlike a lot of dreams or passions, you don't have a limited amount of time to break into the industry before the ship sails away and you'll never be able to do it successfully. You can debut at 18 or you can debut at 75. Just because Veronica Roth debuted while she was an undergrad doesn't mean you have to. Just because that other writer you know writes 2,000 words a day doesn't mean you have to. And the fact that you're not doing those things doesn't mean you're not successful. You will never be able to complete your novel if you're spending all your time comparing it to other novels. You will never be an author if you're taking the time out of your day to compare yourself to other authors. You have no idea what's going to become of this book you haven't even written yet. Maybe it'll be amazing and it'll get you an agent and a book deal. Maybe you'll hate it so much you'll never show it to anyone. You can't know until you get the first draft done. Stop looking over at what the people around you are doing and worry only about yourself. Push yourself to the best of your own abilities and don't worry about anyone else. Eyes on your own paper. So there you have it, writer friends. 5 practical tips to getting your first novel finished. Thanks so much for watching. Now get off of YouTube and get to work. That book isn't gonna write itself, but before you go, hit that subscribe button. Because I do post new videos every week. And while you're at it, you can subscribe to my newsletter below to get a free short story. And follow me on Twitter for information about my book. If you have questions or video requests, leave them in the comments below. I'll see you next week, writer friends. Bye!